Favorite game to spectate? Okay, cool. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, I'm gonna say like for me, Final Fantasy is always a good game to spectate. Like most of them, because it doesn't matter which game people are playing, because you can always talk about any of the other Final Fantasies in the chat. But I'm gonna choose a different one because I think Final Fantasy could be like my favorite game to spectate every single year. So because it's 2020, I'm gonna choose Hades. Because I don't know, there are so many things you can enjoy watching that game. Like you can enjoy learning because every run is different for every single person. You can enjoy interacting with the people in like they are playing because you can ask them like about the game, what type of run, what type of weapon they like more, anything. And then if they like backseating, you can backseat them away until they die. So I don't know, there are so many possibilities for that game. I was going to say also like Baldur's Gate because you can interact with you can choose the dialogue, but it's early access, so I guess not yet. But yeah, Hades is really fun to watch. It's really fun to play. I'm struggling not to play enough stream, but watching is also really like you learn basically. Like I can watch people and think, oh, I'm gonna do that in my playthrough. So yeah, it's nice.
You keep like an eye out for certain boons and abilities that you're like, I want to see that and get that kind of combo. It's
yeah, like I saw people getting the hunting blades, which is like a duo, like between two gods. And I was like, oh my god, I need to try that. I haven't tried yet, but I want that so badly. So yeah, it's fun to watch.
It's a gorgeous game. A gorgeous game. It's visually stunning. The voice acting's really good too. It's gorgeous. I've loved what I've seen.
Character design, everyone is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Everyone is hot.
Ooh,
yeah. Fuck them all.
Hot with 2 T's.
Yeah. Aphrodite make it so.
It also kind of came out of nowhere, I found. Like,
it's been out for 2 years.
Yeah.
In early access.
Over on the Epic Games Store, it was on early access for quite a while before it hit Steam.
Oh. Okay.
When it hit Steam, that was like the full. That was like the early access, and then the full official release was on Steam.
Which makes me like very hopeful for like Baldur's Gate, because I think the early access for Hades worked really well because the game is amazing, and I think the input from the the players it was really important for that. So yeah,
a lot of polish.
Which studio made Hades?
What's
Supergiant?
Like? Yes.
Okay.
They made like Bastion and what else?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they make some really good games. Bastion was awesome. What was the other one they made, like Transistor or something?
Yes.
That one was also really good. They just have a handle on like really good design and like visual stimulation without it being messy. You know, it's like it's clean and it looks good. I love that studio's work.
I feel like it translates very well to stream as well. You know, those kind of run it back type games with the roguish mechanics or whatever, where you can come in at any point and be like, oh, how's this run going? Or like, what's your build this time? Where you don't require that investment as a viewer. You don't need to know what it was like 5 hours ago or whatever.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah. Like if I see someone playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I love, and if their first playthrough, I know that I cannot say certain things because they haven't reached the end. So while if they are playing Hades, it's like, I mean, there are minor spoilers, I guess, because there are things in the story that I still don't know, but you can pretty much say anything about the game mechanics and so.
I think it's very similar to Dark Souls in that way, where it's like you can almost, for the most part, you can tune into a Dark Souls game, and it's really just about the build of character that they're playing, how they're trying to level up for PvP, PvE, and I think Hades does that really well. I think they understood that. Just reiterating that the ability to drop in on a stream and know what's happening is really cool.
It's kind of broad for me. It's just Super Mario World Kaizo, because I just love watching Kaizo and just chilling. For me, a lot of it is about the creativity that goes into the Kaizos. Like, there's so many different hacks out there, but I like popping into someone just playing, you know, because on the category it just says Super Mario World. So you go, okay, they're playing something. And then they have the Kaizo in the stream title. But it's like when you've never seen it before, you go, okay, what music did they pull from what other game, or what MIDI translated music are they using, and what enemies are you going to see? It's interesting seeing the chocolate in it is what the Kaizo developers call. There's vanilla Super Mario World. Then chocolate is the stuff they added that isn't from like Mario mechanics and stuff, backgrounds and shit like that. Do you give Mario a double jump? Do you like? There's been some really interesting stuff I've seen with Kaizo. And then watching a few streamers build Kaizo on stream is it's really impressive. There's a guy, Slopcore, I watched him build his first Kaizo hack throughout the year, Dancer to a Discordant System, and he's working on Dancer 2, but he's also a massive Kaizo head. Like I've seen, and then you kind of start seeing familiar ones, and like you see, it's fun to watch people speed run them, which is even more mental because they're just hyper difficult in the first place. And then to see them, these players take these challenges to the next level. Of course, I always appreciate that. It's just the challenge and the input requirements needed for it. Earlier this year, I actually tried playing my first Kaizo. I played Kaizo Kindergarten, and I only beat like a couple levels, and I fell off it. I think I just had other stuff coming up in the schedule. It's not like I rage quit. I would love to go back, but it is super intensive to play. Like, so I got that level of respect because I've been watching Kaizo for years. Like I used to always say, I'm a professional Kaizo spectator. And but when I finally tried it, it was just like, oh yeah, the designers just, it's not even like sadistic because everything's possible. It's just about setting that challenge bar so fucking high. But it's like also fuck your hands and fuck your ego. It's the Kaizo. So that gave me a new way to just enjoy taking it in even more. So a lot of levels to the Mario World Kaizo that you can literally just always throw that on and just watch Katoon or someone throwing out Zanian, just throwing down.
Oh yeah, I've watched some YouTubes of Kaizo back in the days. It's so ridiculous, it's so absurd and ego breaking and like not even rage inducing. I mean, it is, but it's it takes the player places. And I really appreciate watching that.
See, the heights of difficulty I had ever hit was with the Souls games, and there's some weird parallel to the difficulty of like challenge runs in Souls games, and just you're dying over and over again. You just gotta keep trying, or even just learning a boss for the new time, like learning a level for the first time is I saw a huge parallel there, and I even got a Kaizo player to play Dark Souls, so it felt good.
Dude, shout out to Slopcore, by the way.
Slopcore's the dude.
Yeah, I watch his channel all the time. Like when I get home from work, he's usually on playing some crazy Kaizo mod. And so the other night, Audax and I were playing some golf, and somebody pops into the Discord call, and it's Slopcore, and I get quiet because I'm like, this guy's a celebrity. Like this guy is a pro Mario gamer.
He's the dude, real.
When you're growing up, you get to the Star Road levels in vanilla Super Mario World, and if you can beat those, you're thinking, dude, I've got this game down.
Yeah.
I'm like top dog at this. And then I see Slopcore plans, and I had heard of Kaizo, but I didn't really know what it was, and so I'm watching him, and I'm like, how? Like, how the fuck do you do this? Like, so yeah, shout out to Slopcore. He's
been one of my go-to wake up streams because he's streaming at that like 9:30 a.m.
Yep,
time.
he's over on the East Coast, and
so
I came up with him as a streamer. That's my boy.
Man, I love laying in bed and watching him like make the same mistake over and over again. But like, it's a great time.
And he stays so calm. Like all of those Kaizo players never get mad. I never see them tilted. And I'm like, dude, I would be tilted after like 2 tries. I'd be like, nope, this is impossible. I hate it. I quit.
Originally, I was thinking, man, I haven't laughed as hard as I do when I watch people play golf with friends. It's so stupid, and watching people get tilted makes me just like, that makes me so happy for some reason. But I thought a bit more about it, and I had to think, where do I find myself the most when I'm offline. And like when I'm offline, and I mean, right, I'm not talking to anybody I know. I always find myself in Final Fantasy 1 randomizer streams. And I'm obsessed with that stuff. I would like to start doing it. Actually, I was talking to my brother about doing races on Tuesdays or something, and just randomized Final Fantasy. There's something that's so like that's the video game I ever played, and now that there's like new life in it through this randomizer scene, I just think that's it's so comfortable and familiar, and I know what's going on, and I know what I have to look for. So yeah, it's been great, and I met some really really great people. Somebody who has the Twitch name Burt Reynolds streams that. But I was gonna say Audax's Blood Level 4 Bloodborne run, because I was invested in that.
Thank you, brother.
Blood level 4, that's like no level ups, right?
Yeah, no character level up. You can upgrade the weapon, but not the character.
Lawrence to this day stays in my
Oh
head.
God.
Yeah.
Good grief.
That pop off. Jesus.
Coming back to the Final Fantasy randomizer, when you do a race of that, what's like a good time, Cranberry?
Well, the guys that I watch can pop out a run in an hour and a half.
Wow. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
So far my best run is 4 hours. So
That's still really good.
I'm starting to see how it's done, and there are many different ways. Sometimes they've made it into like a deep dungeon system where every staircase takes you to a random floor of a random dungeon. All of the treasures are completely randomized. So you'll need to go through like 20 levels just to get the loot that you need to get through this one part. It's crazy.
Thanks.
And watching their strategies and how they're able to tweak the game, okay, in this run, thieves have boosted evasion stats. So you may want to fill your party with thieves so you can run for more battles. It changes the way that you think about the game.
It's amazing, like a game that is just so old.
And that's the thing, too. Yeah.
Like, yeah, not only Final Fantasy, like so many other games, and then people just modify them and they have like a second life. And I don't know, it's just, it's awesome.
It's really cool, isn't it? The love that people have for it. They find ways to breathe like a random element into it or some kind of extra challenge to it.
Yeah, the randomizer is definitely an interesting element. Like, I watched a little bit of Final Fantasy 4 and 6 randomizer this year. It was really fun, so I totally understand. It's a good one.
Yeah, Zelda randomizers are really cool. Because the progression in that game is based off the items you get. So if you like suddenly, instead of getting the Pegasus boots, you get the hook shot, then it changes the way that you have to approach or the order you're approaching dungeons, which I think is really neat. It implies a certain knowledge base of the game as a whole, So very cool.
So when's our race? Our Final Fantasy 1 race?
February 25th.
All right.
Said it.
Let me just put it in my pad.
Yeah.
Trout, what was your favorite game to spectate this year?
Well, I've got an honorable mention, and the honorable mention is honestly, it's GeoGuessr, which Porto, you introduced me to. I've watched some other GeoGuessr streams, but GeoGuessr is such a fantastic thing that gets everyone involved. Like whether you're somebody like, I know you've got a few people that are on your stream that like always know everything immediately, or you're like an idiot like me and I just assume everything's Florida. Hey, it's like you're still in there and guessing and it's fun. And then you'll be like, oh, it's like a discovery every time because you'll see some language and I only know one language. And so any other language, just, like I'm like, oh, that must be, I don't know, Russian. And then it turns out that it's like Japanese or something. GeoGuessr is really great, but that's my honorable mention because the Souls games and Bloodborne are so much fun to watch. The thing that I've noticed with those games is that I watch a lot of like blind playthroughs, and those are really neat because there's sort of this bond that anyone who's actually beaten one of the titles shares with everyone else who has. Like for me, Dark Souls 2 is one that like a lot of people haven't beaten Dark Souls 2, but I can say I beat it. So if somebody's doing a stream of it, I can come in and be like, fuck you losers, you all suck. So yeah, but no, seriously though, I do enjoy the Souls games. I like watching them because the discovery, like when you find a new path back to the hub area and you like that, oh, I know where I'm at. That's so cool to watch other people experience that for the first time. Like when they first get back to Firelink Shrine and they're like, oh, this is where I was. Like, yeah, it's just the neatest thing to see their face like light up, you know?
Yeah, the piecing together of the world and yeah, you sort of, like remember those moments that you experienced playing it and the sort of visceral reaction you might have had to something. Like for me, it's always the first one that I remember having as a big like what the fuck moment, and then therefore looking for other people when I watch them blind streaming it is the moment of the bell gargoyles, where there's that moment where there's like, what? There's two of them? Like
there's
where the second one,
of them?
like it's, I love that moment. And there's like these certain touchstones that are really satisfying to see how other people deal with.
Those FromSoft games are special. They're just
Yeah, Bloodborne was the first one I played, and I just fell in love instantly. Like for me, the aesthetic was like this is what I love. Like that like gothic kind of dark style was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah,
I would definitely say it was my most watch of 2019. I was just really, really heavily watching a lot of Souls and Bloodborne and everything, and
it's probably my most watched of all time, just because there's so much to watch. If you ever play Dark Souls thinking about a build, it's so easy to just pop in there and just watch somebody making something similar, you know, like.
Well, yeah, and I mentioned the blind playthroughs, but I forgot to mention that then there's all the people doing challenge runs, like beating the game with a Guitar Hero guitar and stuff like that.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
or like a Wiimote, you know, they just do this crazy stuff.
You
And
see the guy who did it with the DK bongos?
Yeah, I heard about that.
what?
Nice.
Oh my god, that's so sick.
Or like a DDR pad. I just beat it with that. I can't even beat it with a controller. Like, do it.
It really brings out the masochistic side in people, which I like. And I also think something that is not to be understated is that the narrative as a viewer of the growth, like seeing a game like, and Kaizo probably has a similar element to it as well, like seeing a game really test someone's ego, sort of break them down a little bit, and watching them like slowly work something out, go from despair to like slowly growing in confidence, and then that moment of release when they finally like beat a boss. And then the jubilant like running around aimlessly for 10 minutes, just feeling good, like not really knowing what you're doing. Like I love that.
Clicking that shield button up and down.
yeah. I'm gonna make mine quick, because my most favorite game to spectate of this year were also FromSoft games. Like overall, there was a lot of things I really enjoyed watching, but for the same reason. From watching Dark Souls players, of whom some are playing right now for the first time, Dark Souls 3, even Dark Souls 2, Bloodborne and Sekiro. Yeah, it's kind of what we just spoke about then. I love it. I become very invested in it. The ones that I have played, it's probably better because I can just jump in at any point and know where they're at. But yeah, it's. I wonder if maybe it'll be the same as Audax saying 2019 was the year that he watched a lot of FromSoft games. I wonder if it will continue, but right now I'm still deep in the throes of that.
Can I just take a minute to call Trout on his shit right now by choosing the Halo collection as his favorite game and the FromSoft collection as his favorite game to watch?
And my least favorite was just a DLC pack.
Yeah. So far he's got like 11 games in a DLC pack.
What I want.
Yeah.
Covering all the bases, baby.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to cop shit for saying, like, I actually would like to thank you, Trout, because I thought I was going to cop shit for saying FromSoft, but now I've been given the green light. Yeah, great series, and I gotta say, man, I'm pretty excited for 2080 when Elden Ring drops.
Is it real? Miyazaki laughs in the background.
Let's move on, guys. What's the next category?
I think it's gonna be the game you most wanted to stream.
Oh,
But you never
around
did.
to it.
cool. Yeah, so a game you most wanted to stream but did not get around to.
Well, if I check my backlog, the struggle is real because more and more games are going into the backlog
Yeah.
that are leaving the backlog. So I wasn't sure what to write here because I don't really know how good a game is gonna be to stream until I start streaming. I mean, I guess I have a good idea. Like FromSoft games are gonna be good normally, but I'm gonna say Ghost of Tsushima.
Wow.
Because I saw people playing that, and I was playing Sekiro when I was watching people playing that, and it looks like very like similar. Like I mean, maybe not the difficulty, but like the Japanese like aesthetic and everything. I really want to play. It looks fun. People who played it really liked it, so I wanted to stream it too. But then I had to do the choice of Ghost of Tsushima or Cyberpunk, and unfortunately, I chose Cyberpunk.
And you chose wrong.
And I chose wrong.
Fortunately.
No, I don't know if I chose wrong, but yeah, probably I will play it in 2021 at some point. Yeah, but I couldn't play this year.
That game looks fucking beautiful. I've watched
Yeah,
it.
it
Oh,
does.
it's gorgeous,
Looks awesome.
man.
Has anyone played it?
I have not yet, no. But it kind of felt like it was never close to me, if that makes sense. Like I feel like I missed the hype around it. I had a friend who was really into it, but maybe it just passed me by in a way that I wasn't able to catch on to the hype train. But
Right.
when I looked at it, I was just like, yeah, I
I
really
think-
want to play this.
There was never like a really hype. I think it suffered a lot from coming after Final Fantasy VII Remake and The Last of Us 2, because
Mm.
people were talking so much about those games even after they were released that I think they didn't have time to talk about the Ghost of Tsushima. But
Mm.
yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel the hype. That's one of the reasons I didn't play, and probably one of the reasons I played Cyberpunk, because I was feeling the hype from Cyberpunk, like from the
Right.
community. So yeah.
It's one of those weird things. Like, I wouldn't be surprised in 5 years, you know, when you look back at a period, it's kind of different to the way you feel about it when you're in it. I wouldn't be surprised to hear Ghost be talked about in an even more positive light in the future. Because maybe a lot of people have taken their time getting around to it. But like, I've watched a fair bit of it, and not only does it look beautiful, it seems to have a good and engaging storyline. It seems like the mechanics are cool as well. There's like, seems to be like good stealth. It's bloody as fuck, which is always a good time. No, I think it looks like a really great game.
It was able to squeeze out a couple of awards at the Game Awards when Last of Us 2 wasn't winning everything.
What awards did it win?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but
Yeah, but they I think they won something. Yeah.
yeah,
we
they
can
won a
check.
couple. Yeah.
Best cover art.
Yeah, exactly. Best game, and now for best game that isn't Last of Us 2.
Yeah, second best game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Best game in feudal Japan.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh well, they won the people's vote. So there was
Ah.
an award like with all the best game of the year for the like votation from the public, from the
Yeah.
people.
Commoners.
So they
Yeah,
won
exactly.
the real game of the year, maybe.
Probably.
Democracy at work.
But yeah, like, and I heard like many reviews, like podcasts and things, and they all say like the open world, like it takes the best of like the last generation open world games, and so I'm very like hyped to play it.
Okay, well, I sort of have one I streamed, but I wanted to beat. But I also have one I actually never touched. But so the one I actually never touched is more like an honorable Xenogears. I thought I'd have time to start up Xenogears. I wanted to get back into JRPGs. Final Fantasy VIII is kind of the start of that. But I just never got around to Xenogears. I've just been thinking about it. Next year, for sure. But Resident Evil 1 remake. I actually tried to stream this back in July on my birthday. It was like the last thing I threw on because I was like, I'm going to play this in October. And I never got to it in October. So I ran out of October. I tried to stream it, though, in July, and it ran like shit for some reason. Like, Jill was like running underwater, like hella slow. And like, I just didn't, like, I didn't, like, it was like, I only was going to stream for like an hour left anyways. And I was just like, wasn't sure about troubleshooting it. But I really love Resident Evil 1 Remake. It's absolutely amazing. Played it on GameCube when it first came out. Would love to beat that on stream. That's kind of the one that really more stood out to me than Xenogears.
That's one of my
It's like
favorite games.
Unfinished
of all time.
business.
One of my favorite games of all time. The remake. When I got that on GameCube, I thought it looked real, and I'm still scared of the sharks. Great choice.
Neptune coming for you.
Has anyone played Xenogears?
I've never played it, but it's always been around. It's always been around. I've never played it, but yeah.
It's real good. It was interesting as a 10-year-old learning about the ego, the id, and the super ego, and existential crisis in very severe forms, and touches with just, I don't know. It's for me, it's important as far as pertaining to like mental health, and I don't know how well it actually portrays it because it's been so many years, but there's just it's real heady game. It's not just giant robots running around. It's not just giant mecha. It's got more of an Evangelion kind of, approach to why the fuck are we piloting anything and what the fuck is going on? What is the planet? So,
yeah, I was gonna say there's something about that period of like mecha anime and video games and stuff where they were really trying to tackle these like deep-seated existential questions using giant robots and often like children piloting giant robots. So there's something about that time period where a lot of progress was made in metaphysics just from like Japanese cartoons. So.
I feel like Zone of the Enders kind of falls along in that line too. So
apparently that was because I've heard a lot about Xenogears, and it's a lot of people revere it as one of the greatest RPGs of the time or of all time. Apparently the studio ran out of money like on the last disc.
And the second disc is basically like a visual novel with your bits in between, your RPG battles in between. It's really a shame how that got hit by the budget, because Xenogears was developed as potentially a Final Fantasy VII, potentially a Chrono Trigger sequel. There's a lot of like up in the air, like what could Xenogears really be before it kind of fell into its own identity and kind of thing. But like there's literally Luca from Chrono Triggers in Xenogears.
What?
Oh, wow.
Really?
That's why it kind of got the budget hit, is because they decided, no, this isn't going to be the official Final Fantasy VII. This is going to be. So it's the first disc is amazing, absolutely amazingly paced, and just will make you think. It is. It's fun to play. The mechanics are great, but yeah, that second disc is a real. It took a real hit. It's a real shame. Still worth playing, in my opinion. It's one of my favorite RPGs.
Yeah, to see what, well, not what could have been, but what it was.
I love the battle system. Honestly, you have to like input like buttons and you can kind of design your own chain of attacks. I don't know. It's a solid playthrough, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've never played it, but I've been watching Ziada. You guys know Ziada? Ziada's been streaming it. Everyone's favorite cat VTuber. Streaming it, and it's fantastic, dude. Like, I'm really impressed with how it looks. It's up there with like Chrono Cross for being and like Vandal Hearts or whatever for being like one of the best looking PS1 RPGs.
The artwork holds up. Their blending of 2D and 3D was a lot more seamless than a lot of games around that time, and it's got these amazing full motion video anime cutscenes that were just like mind blowing. I'm like, I sampled Xenogears for a track one time. It's so good. It's a really good experience. So I'll share that eventually. I'm glad Ziada's playing it. So hell yeah,
looking forward to it. Mr. Cranberry Pudding.
It was 5 months streaming Final Fantasy. Never got around to playing Final Fantasy Tactics. And as somebody who is identified, I don't identify myself with the game, and we've talked about this before, but somebody who is often identified even by my friends outside of Twitch as somebody who is obsessed with Final Fantasy. I've never played Final Fantasy Tactics. And I'm often told it's the best one. And I am, after I gave Final Fantasy 12 another shot, and that and Final Fantasy 13, to go off a little bit, were the ones that really I'm glad I took a second look at, because I don't know whether I understood what it is they were trying to do back then, but now that I can stop seeing them as sequels to a series that don't play like other games in the series, I'm a lot more open-minded to go back to this game, and I never got around to it. So, something for next year.
Final Fantasy Tactics has always been a weird one for me as well. I love, and I've put in 100 hours plus to both of the advanced ones, so Tactics Advance and Tactics Advance 2 on DS and Game Boy Advance. But Final Fantasy Tactics never came to Australia.
What?
The PS version never came. Maybe to PAL regions in general. Agus, could you confirm this? Did you have? Was it in Spain when you were growing up?
I have no idea if it was, but I never heard of it. I mean, I know about it now, but I never played it, and I never was in my head to play it. So I don't know if it because it didn't come to, for example, might be the same as Final Fantasy 3. The first Final Fantasy released in Europe was Final Fantasy 7.
I heard
same here.
4,
Same here.
5, 6, they never released, so I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, we missed out. We got shafted. Sorry, Trap.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, Tactics was like a staple in my house growing up with me and my brother. And the thing that I'll say about Tactics for anybody who hasn't played it is that essentially it mixes Porto, I know you love Final Fantasy V with the job system. And then, you mentioned Final Fantasy 12, Cran, which I think has one of the grandest stories. And it has to do with nations at war and class struggle. Tactics covers all that stuff even better.
Yeah.
They tackle religion and how it affects the masses. They tackle class issues. They tackle rivalries amongst nobility and how it affects the lower classes. It's really good. So I think that's a good pick for 2021 for Cran and any of us to stream.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And on top of that, my experience with the advanced games, they have the stories are really whatever, because it's more of a kiddie audience. It's aimed at being more accessible in terms of the story. Your protagonist is a 13-year-old boy or something like that. But even with a story that doesn't really matter, the gameplay is fantastic. The customization, the progression, the squads you can have. So I can only imagine how good a game it would be if it had the story that Trout's speaking.
Well, and Tactics Advance covered a lot of racial inequity, right? Because there were all these different races on Ivalice.
There was a little bit of that, yeah.
People and the Mughals and the people, and so there was some of that, and at least I got that vibe as an adult playing it. I was like, oh, they're clearly making a commentary on racial strife in a multicultural global world,
Well, I think that not to go off on a tangent about Final Fantasy, but I think that whenever they've based a game in Ivalice or in Rabanastre, in Ivalice, I guess, it's always been a really flushed out world.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of hoping that Final Fantasy 16's trailer kind of looks like it might be an Ivalice game. And that would be pretty cool.
Well, you don't have to make up all the lore then, right? You can already have that foundation and focus more on the narrative of what's going on, or you just have something to build upon then. I think that'd be a great idea.
I had so many games. I know everybody's the same. It's oh yeah, you've got this backlog. But Cran had mentioned Earthbound, and that's actually what I wrote down for the game that I most wanted to stream. And keep in mind that I've never played through Earthbound. I played the prologue once. So for me, this would be it's one of those games that is legendary. You're gonna love. You just have to get the time to squeeze Earthbound in. So that's going to happen in 2021 for sure. I've always liked the idea of Earthbound, the aesthetic and the sense of humor. I've played a lot of games that are sort of that's one of their inspirations for them. So I'm excited to get into Earthbound. I just didn't have time for it this year. I just got the capture card, but now that I do, Earthbound is definitely going to happen.
Hell yeah.
Give me all the Earthbound streams, please.
Yeah.
I listened to a podcast about Earthbound one time, and one of the things I really liked about their discussion was this idea that Earthbound it's like maybe not a parody or a satire, but it's kind of a hyper real, not real representation of the US, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's a Japanese game.
That's one of my favorite things when Japanese game developers make a game in the US, and it's so like what Dead Rising, that series is very like it's peak American, you know. It's like, oh, this is totally what Americans are like because this is what I saw on the TV in the 80s, you know. Dude, I love that. And they're just always so funny, like, and so kind of cheesy, you know, but it's like they almost get it right to an extent, you know, because it is all just like fast food advertisements and ridiculous personalities and stuff. They just take it, they turn it up to 11 and it's like perfect, man. I love it.
Yep.
Your healing item in Earthbound is literally a hamburger.
Yeah, hamburger or like a can of soda. That's always But then, you know, hey, I got a can of soda right here. Like,
I enjoyed that you can put like salt or ketchup on your hamburger and like make it heal more. Yeah.
It's a whole condiment system.
Yeah.
So the game, I'm similar to you guys. There's probably a lot that's on the backlog, or I've got various lists that I wrote in like July of games I was supposed to stream, and I've only streamed 2 of them. But I look back at everything, and I think the game that I've been meaning to stream for the longest period of time that's still in my mind is Silent Hill. The original on PlayStation 1. You know, I was a huge fan of the Resident Evil series growing up through the original PlayStation games all the way through to kind of 4. But mostly the tank control-y kind of era. And Silent Hill was always it always felt to me as this kind of Pepsi to Resident Evil's Coke, to use a corporate expression. And but I think, you know, the people I've spoken with about it, including my brother, who's always been a bigger Silent Hill fan than Resident Evil, they've said, no, it's way different. It's far more psychological than the RE game, and it's not. It sort of runs more like a psychological thriller as opposed to a B-grade gore fest with jump scares, which I'm fond of also. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to hopefully play that eventually. But the thing is, Silent Hill 1's not the cheapest game to pick up. It's like you're running like probably $100-ish bucks, which is an okay price to pay, but I just haven't managed to pull the trigger yet. Has anyone here played Silent Hill?
oh man, I'm the biggest Silent Hill fan. You know, like you mentioned the Coke to Pepsi, and the way I've always considered it is more like a film thing where Resident Evil is like George Romero's just straight zombies. Whereas Silent Hill is like Jacob's Ladder, man. It's just so out there. You never know what's going on. But yeah, dude, huge. And I was initially like a huge Resident Evil fan. And then when I played Silent Hill, I realized what horror games could do. And so I still like Resident Evil, but to me, it's the cheaper alternative. It's like the RC Cola to Silent Hill's Coke, you know?
Yeah, this is kind of what I hear from people that love the series. And apparently it's supposed to peak with the second installment. Number 2 is supposed to really be the shit, but I like to start at the beginning. So yeah, that's what I hope to stream sometime early next year.
I couldn't play that.
You couldn't play it?
Go ahead, Agus.
Like as a kid.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like I played the Resident Evil, but then Silent Hill. I couldn't. I was too scared. So that's how much that game can do for you.
Pyramid Head
Yeah.
is nothing to like. That is crazy.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing that I loved about Silent Hill was that it was full of symbolism. Like Pyramid Head was, and I won't spoil anything, but he's
No.
symbolic of a person's guilt, essentially, like of something that they did that was really bad. And that's how a lot of that plays out. Like the enemies are emblematic of that individual,
Yeah.
as opposed to just being like generic zombies or zombie dogs or whatever. It's sorry to hate on Resident Evil. But yeah, man, on Silent Hill, it's this like really deep, and the development story for that game, like Team Silent or whatever, it's just a cool. They were all rejects. They were all like basically about to be fired by Konami, but Konami, in a last-ditch effort, took all the weird people and put them in an office together, and that's what they came up with. And I love that. That's such a
great
cool
play.
story.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Remember when Konami used to make good games, guys?
Damn.
Make games, right?
I'm sorry, yeah.
Konami.
Remember when they weren't a pachinko company?
My only experience with, and I guess this also might come back to Konami kind of sucking, with Silent Hill is PT. Watching YouTubes of the demo for what was supposed to be like Silent Hill 5 or something like that. Have you guys seen that?
I played it. Yeah. I wish I hadn't deleted it.
I know, me too.
My fucking god, that was so scary. Like it's fucked up. It's not just scary, it's fucked up, and it is psychological, and it's about what you're not seeing, and what you're not hearing, and what you're waiting for, and the tension is immense, and the fact that it just takes place in that one hallway, that kind of seeing that and hearing that was supposed to be the next Silent Hill or a trailer or a part of it, made me really go, okay, I need to like explore this series.
And what a tease too. That was gonna be Hideo Kojima and making Silent Hill. Like, oh.
Well, that's why we got
Death Stranding.
Death Stranding, yeah, because what's his name was supposed to be the main character in Silent Hills.
Yeah, Norman Reedus.
Yeah, and interesting side note, when they took that down off of the PlayStation Store, there are still, to this day, you can go on eBay and there are people that'll sell a PS4 with PT already installed for like $2,500, $3,000. Like, yeah, because it's so sought after. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, a relic of gaming history.
Well, before we move on from the game sections, I want to say something because I don't want to come across like this guy who only played AAA games. So I have my own best indie game of the year
Okay.
to stream. No, I want to do a shout out to this game because I streamed it I did it in one stream only. It was like 5 hours game, and it's called There Is No Game. And I think it's not famous at all, but it is amazing. It's really good. It's about like the creator having this struggle to create something, but like not having the funding, and how that's the kind of, you discover that towards the end, but it's based in all the RPG games, and how now these RPG games have like this kind of like you have to pay money to unlock the chest, or like all these kind of things. So it makes jokes out of all of those things, and it's hilarious. I just want to shout out that game. Like, if anyone has chance to play that game, it was really fun to actually stream it too. So it's great indie game.
Sounds meta. I like it.
It's very meta. It's super meta. Like, I heard it in a podcast, and then I said like the guy was speaking very highly about it, and then I said like, oh, I'm gonna try, because you can do it in one stream, and I have one stream empty there, and I felt like, yeah, it was really good.